All right, what is happening, guys? It is another episode of the Creatives on Business podcast with myself, Henry Marsh. Today we're going to be chatting about the things we always chat about, teaching and learning from creatives how they make a successful career from what they do. Today I need to read this one again because I've got a cool little intro that I've written for this man across from me. Some say the number of followers he has on Instagram is the amount he makes per shot. In Zim dollars, we've got Louw Lemmer. What is happening, dude?
Zim dollars, that's not a very successful career. Why do you have me on this show, man?
You have a lot of followers. So
I'm the charity case interview.
You have a lot of followers, so the number of followers in Zim dollars could be like a couple of $100. I don't know, maybe.
No, good enough for a day, for a coffee.
So, Louw Lemmer, dude, thank you so much for coming onto the show, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, man, thank you so much for inviting me. I love doing these things, and I especially like doing them with guys who I know and friends. So, yeah.
We've been mates for, we were actually just chatting about it. We've been mates for like 6 years now.
Oh.
Hey? We met on like an Instagram walk back in the day.
Yeah, I remember this. I remember, I think I had like 800 followers back then, and you just randomly came up to me and said, Louw Lemmer, I know you, and how does it feel to be famous? I'm like, what, dude, how do you have 800 followers? That's not fame. Yeah.
So for the people out there who don't know, who is Louw Lemmer and what do you do?
Louw Lemmer. Well, my full name's Louw Lemmer, very Afrikaans, but my brand name's Louw Lemmer because it's my nickname. But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit on my name. I am a creative. I'm a photographer, and I call myself a creative director. I spend my days taking photos, running social media, running campaigns, doing this, that, and everything online and e-commerce related and creative related.
It's amazing, dude. And so, did you have any sort of formal education in photography, or how did you get started?
I had no formal education in photography whatsoever. I literally got started about also like 6 years ago, just before we met. I started just taking photos with my iPhone back then, and I thought it was cool. I was like, let me just see and do the selfies, doing the most, doing the beach shots, and I was doing that while I was finishing school, and it just sort of evolved into something that was more permanent when I actually saw that, well, my account was growing, and it was fun to go on Insta meet up with fellow creatives, and I was enjoying being creative more and more. So yeah, it's sort of where it started. And from there, I just started booking more shoots, and I eventually got a camera, and yeah, it went from there. It's quite a long story. Yeah.
And we've got lots of time. Lots of time.
Actually, I started using a camera when I found my brother's camera in the cupboard, and I went over to him and I said, "Listen, it's just gathering dust here. Can I use it? Can I go out?" So I always say this to people. While my friends were out in bars and out on nights out, I was driving around on my bicycle, riding around, not driving, taking photos of everything. Whatever I could find, buildings, nature, and eventually I started photographing people because it's always been so much more fun, and it's such a creatively diverse aspect of photography is using people and having people as your subject. So I really quickly started photographing people, and from there I started getting gigs, I think like you as well, did a lot of concert gigs, a lot of nights at clubs where you would just take photos of random bands. I remember, I think I did Albert and those guys when they were still playing in Short Straw and December Streets. So I took photos of them all for their venues, and I made, I think, like 400 rands on one of the first shoots I ever did. So from there, I really started growing sort of a little mini name, and got a little bit more recognizable in the music industry as a photographer. And out of that, I really found my passion for creating creating content, and I experimented more and more with creative photography and telling stories, until the point where brands started picking me up, and I managed to get sponsorships and trips and everything. And it was my, that 3-4 years following that was sort of my university years in photography, where I would spend a lot of time researching on my own, asking questions, meeting up with fellow photographers, seeing what they do, and learning from them, and it evolved into this career that I'm in now, where I'm fortunate enough to have grown a decent following on Instagram, which helps a lot. And I've also been fortunate enough to meet a lot of really cool people, especially in the music industry, who have really boosted my career and my name to the point where I can sustain a lifestyle with it now.
There's a few things with what you've just said that I'd like to break down. You've just sort of finished off now saying that it took you 4 years, your university years in photography, as you call it, before you started making these breakthroughs with big brands and big artists that you work for. Do you think that's quite an important thing, that you had to put in the graft for 4 full years, working for free, making 200 Rand for a shoot, before you could actually start developing a relationship with bigger brands?
Yeah, heck yes. My dad always says the man on top of the mountain didn't fall there. And making a success as a creative and as an entrepreneur requires that 3-4 years of grafting hard. And even that's not a guarantee. You have to really invest all of that time. You have to spend late nights editing. I'm sure you know all of this. And you have to sacrifice a lot of weekends. And you'll have to go to a concert on a Saturday where all your mates are out in the crowd having a jolt, but you're on stage photographing. And my ethic with that was always to, I'll shoot the shots, get the content, and then I'll hang out with the artist a bit, not to be rude, but straight after that, I'll leave home. I won't drink anything, so I can drive straight back home. I'll arrive home at midnight, and I'll import and start editing straight away in order to get content to them, 6-7 shots for social media, a couple of hours after their show. So, and that's sort of the thing you have to do. You have to go out of your way to get that experience and work hard. And that's why I call it the sort of the creative university years. It's with anything. People often think, all I need to do is get a camera and get Lightroom, and I'm going to make a lot of cash on the side and become famous on social media. And that's completely wrong. It's a big misconception. If you sacrifice going to university and you think you're just going to fall into success, you're making a big mistake, because suddenly all of this is on you. You are in control of your success and your future, and you have to work really hard in order to reach that point.
So you've built your way up now. You're working with top international guys and some guys like someone like Matthew Mole. You've become his personal, can I call it, photographer. How did that come about?
Well, I'm not going to be as bold as to say he's personal photographer, but he does love booking me for shows. And I mean, he has said I'm his favorite photographer and his first choice. And that's really such a massive honor, because I've always been a fan of Matt, and actually started 6 years ago or something. He won some award on iTunes for best South African artist or something. Yeah, I mean, he made history as the first South African artist to top the charts, and I found that. And back then, I mean, money was hard to come by, but I used the money I had to buy his album. And I saw him at a lot of concerts, and I was like, yes, this guy's cool, and he's South African, and he's so passionate about his work. And I saw a lot of the same energy he has for his music in my own love for my photography and my content creation. And it sort of started a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, when a mate of mine, Robbie Spooner, who's in a band called Opposite the Other, who have actually gone like viral now. They are so huge, and I've been saying that it's coming for years because they're just brilliant. Anyway, so Robbie contacted me and said, let's book you for a show for Opposite the Other and for Matthew Mole. And I mean, it blew my mind. And it was one of those late night shows at a small venue, nothing major, but I had a lot of experience shooting those kind of low light events at that point, and I managed to get some cool shots. And Matthew was blown away. He asked for my number and said, listen, I want you to shoot my shows again. And just really evolved from there. I managed to get myself in with a musician, and I managed to do a good job. And he rewarded me with booking me and really over and over and over until the point where, I mean, we became mates, and it became something that sort of went without saying, listen, I'm doing this show, or I am launching my new album, can you take photos? And yeah, it's really boosted and bolstered my portfolio, because it's so rewarding having someone like that on your portfolio, having people see your name being shared on their portfolio, on their Instagram or social or Facebook or whatever. So yeah, it's been a really good booster.
If anyone were to go check out your Instagram, they'll see like a lot of different kind of content. It's very creative kind of stuff. It's you're always trying something new and different. Would you say that that's one of the reasons why you found success within, photographing bands and that kind of thing? Does it give you a different perception because you're trying to be so creative and doing different things the whole time, or?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I've always been someone who would rather be a trendsetter than a follower. I don't want to fall into everyone's trend or viral sensation. I want to create my own if I can. So I think part of that success is because I have pushed my own boundaries and I've changed as much as possible for me to stay sort of ahead of the curve and to try and set the trends. And I mean, that's translated over to all of my work, whether it be concerts or weddings or whatever. I try and take a different approach to it with composition, with editing and all of that. And I think it's really one of the things that people like, and especially Matthew, he likes my ability to capture something different so that he doesn't look like every other artist out there, and his content is unique.
So you've obviously come into the industry as a big creative photographer and made quite a big name for yourself on Instagram. And as such, I mean, you've worked with a lot of big brands and people like Matthew Mole and that kind of thing. Is there a specific technique that you're proud of that you've created through, all of this experimenting? And would you say that the risks that you've taken with experimenting have been worthwhile in gaining all of this attraction to your style of photography?
Yeah, I think it's, for me, that is something that I can really say distinguishes me from a lot of other guys is I didn't go to university. I went straight into this. I didn't say to myself, listen, I'm just going to study and get a fallback in case something goes wrong. In most cases, I think that's the completely wrong attitude to have about your passion. You have to follow your passion. You have to take that big risk. And that allowed me to start growing my skill at a really young age compared to my peers. And it allowed me to use the time I had as a young person who had fresh ideas to really pursue those fresh ideas. So I think that's really one of the things that helped me. And also just commitment and persistence to say, listen, I want to be different and I don't want to be like everyone else. So yeah, I think that plays a big role.
You mentioned earlier that you started off photographing like lots of landscapes and then, nature things, and then you slowly progressed to people, and now your style's obviously built to a point where you're photographing something very specific. Would you say that focus on photographing so many different things has aided you in what you're doing now? And is it important for people to create a niche for themselves in one very specific field?
Yeah, I think the time I spent trying many different things really opened sort of the path to me for me to find what was really my passion. So I definitely think spending a lot of time on various fields of photography helped me to find my niche. I forgot the last part of your question.
It's okay. Like, is it important for people to niche down and to find a very specific field of photography to go into to make a success?
I think yes and no, because there are some guys who are an example of how you can find various niches and become really successful in all of them. But in most cases, I think in order to just get that security within your craft, you have to niche it down to, listen, I'm gonna take photos of people and I'm gonna spend my days doing commercial shoots for brands that involve people, and I'm going to shoot weddings, and I'm gonna get the work done that pays the bills. But from there, I'm really open to exploring different avenues. Like I do the same. I I focus on people, and there's no secret about the fact that I focus around people and shooting commercial and weddings and portrait and whatnot. But I also have an aspect to my photography which I think is really important, that really keeps that passion going, and that's exploring different fields, doing creative stuff, taking photos of animals, taking photos of landscapes. But main answer would be yes, definitely find a niche and focus on that first.
When you wake up in the mornings, right? You as Louw Lemmer, the photographer, what does a typical morning look like? Because you're obviously a freelancer and you're doing this photography thing full time.
Yeah.
What does a general morning look like for you?
Okay, so one of the things that I am not necessarily super fond of, but that I am a big advocate of, is to wake up early. So I'll try and wake up early. Mainly to just start my day and to just get myself in the hype, in the vibe, get a coffee. And
what time is early?
I'm gonna say let's say between 5:30 and just after 6. Okay, but cool. Mostly it's just after 6.
Okay. Most people say 11 o'clock in the morning is early. So
no. I can't sleep that late, man. My girlfriend's gonna disagree. She always says, "No, you wake up so late." So but whatever. I try. I think, and I think I can be better doing it like you. Wake up at 5 and. It really just, I feel like I am a morning person because it takes me a minute to really get into the hype and really be super awake, and I'm really productive in the mornings. So I'll get up in the morning and then make my coffee and then do whatever chores I need to do, like feeding my dog and just getting everything neat. I like making my room super neat. I don't want things to be chaos because that really... it kills my my creative brain if there's chaos around me. So I like cleaning up. From there, I'll do various things commitments that I have with clients who are retainer clients. So I'll get the work done. If it's a social media post or if it's editing work, I'll focus on that first for the first, maybe 6 hours until 12. And then I like to exercise, really think working out and staying fit and healthy is really important. It's also a good way for you to get yourself to wake up early because just tiring yourself helps you go to bed earlier, which is also something I like to do. Most people's early, I don't know what that is, but I like to be in bed, like ready for bed just after 9. So, and I know that's really early for a lot of people, but I like doing that. And after my workout at 12 to 1, lately I've been playing chess. So against my brother, So he'll rock up at 11:30 for lunch, and we'll play a game of chess for half an hour. So he always beats me. I get one or two in every now and then, but I do that deliberately in order to just get my mind off of everything, because being creative is really taxing on your mind as well, and constantly being creatively stimulated is exhausting. It sounds like so much fun, and it is, but I'm sure if you are spending a lot of time on a lot of different creative projects, you get exhausted and you get over it. So I like to get a fresh start after that. So play chess, work out, and then I'll go back to it, and after about maybe 1 PM, I'll start working really hard on my own stuff. So I work hard on promoting my own brands, building my own social media, and spending a lot of time on that. And it's something I've really been actively pursuing in 2020, is posting on my Facebook page every day, posting on my photography Instagram page every day. So after 1, I like to spend time doing that. And then I'll also spend a little time editing different creative photos that are not work related, that are just for my portfolio. And lately I'm also spending a lot of time writing blogs for my own website and just building that, and communicating with clients and doing admin, and that I'll do until about 5 or 6, and then I'll try and just chill out a bit, play with my dogs, and get ready for an early night. Maybe spend some time watching YouTubers and just getting creative inspiration.
Is it important for you to segment your day into where you're doing client work sort of in the morning and you're doing your own personal work in the afternoon?
Yeah, I think it's really important for me. It's an active decision I've made because I want to get that done. I can't focus on the stuff that I enjoy, and that's really spending time on my own creative stuff. That's new. Not that I don't enjoy client work. I do enjoy that too, but I feel there's a bigger commitment where I get paid for that. So I want to get that done. I want to tick off that commitment. It's almost like making up my bed. I want to make up my bed and make sure it's ready for the rest of the day so that I can have that peace of mind for the rest of the day.
You mentioned something earlier which was quite surprising to me, and that's that you've been playing chess recently.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? Why chess? Why have you been playing chess specifically?
It's got a little bit of a backstory, but something that my girlfriend's really invested into my life recently is playing more games and having a little bit more fun with board games like Scrabble. So every time she and I see each other, we play Scrabble. We play a game of Scrabble. We read for an hour, and then we'll maybe watch 2 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something. But we take an active decision to do more board games, and it's something that helps you to bond with a person, and it's also something that gets your mind completely off of the rest of your life. And I think it's super important to get yourself away from your phone, get yourself away from your work, and just spend time doing something that doesn't stimulate that part of your brain, that stimulates a different part of your brain, your brain, that builds vocabulary, that builds wit in a different field. And out of that, my brother and I, because we would hang out with him and his girlfriend as well, and then we'd all start playing Scrabble and whatever board game it might be, and that inspired us to go back to chess. And we actually played chess for such a long time as kids, because for the first 20 years of our life, we spent our days in the same room. We didn't have separate rooms, and that was a great platform to do things like play chess. And we've recently picked it up again, and it's something that's so intellectual, and I like that. So, and I try and beat him. I don't get frustrated by the fact that he keeps on beating me, but I'm gonna start beating him soon.
So you and your brother were, for a little while, you guys were in a business together, and you mentioned earlier as well that you do a lot of social media kind of stuff. How important is it to not just do the photography, but you're doing sort of the other aspects around running a creative business? So things like social media, things like marketing, and what was it that you and your brother were doing together?
Okay, I'm going to answer that part first. I was really fortunate with my brother, who started a really successful company at an early age, and he at that point needed work and someone to help him with work, and I actually needed work to fund the early stages of my photography where it wasn't doing well enough. So he actually employed me to do a lot of generic WordPress things, and out of that, my experience in social media was used to motivate some of our clients to get me to do their social media. And that really gave me sort of that job security, where it was a 12-month retainer, and I was able to do that in the mornings and spend time working on my photography portfolio in the afternoons. But how important is it to have something like that? I think it's really important. I think one of the biggest things in the modern age is to be multi-skilled, because life changes so rapidly, and if you're not multi-skilled and adaptable, you're going to fall behind. So I think being able to use my experience with doing my own marketing and growing my own social media to a relatively large audience helped me to do that for other clients quite successfully, and that's helped me build a separate revenue stream. And that revenue stream keeps me going, enables me to buy new equipment, and have more security.
For the people out there who don't know, so you're obviously a photographer, and you've just mentioned now that you're working for your brother as like a sort of a full-time thing to fund your... So for those of you guys who are listening right now, we've got Carl van der Schijf standing outside, busy videoing our podcast. We're in a mall where people can watch us.
Windows, yeah.
Anyways, so as I was busy telling about now, you worked full time for your brother whilst sort of doing the photography thing on the side. Is that an important aspect to create that sort of a sustainable full-time job whilst you're creating something on the side before you can go full-time into photography, just doing photography?
Yeah, I mean, I did say earlier I would advise not to get a fallback to study, because that takes you away from really focusing on your passion. Although it's not, I'm not going to say 100% don't, but if you're really passionate about doing this, try and make your fallback something within the industry that you are doing. Grow your skill as a marketer, as a social media manager, as a social media content creator. And that's what I did. And it was really important for me to have that security within the industry that I was working in, because it allowed me to say, listen, okay, cool. I don't need to panic if I don't have any bookings this month, because I do have this client who pays me enough to sustain myself. So I think it's valuable, and I would encourage aspiring creatives to find that fallback within your industry.
I got distracted a little bit with Carl just now, and the question I wanted to ask actually was also around gear and that kind of things. I know as photographers, and I'm sure it is with any creative industry, we're always looking to get the next best thing.
As humans.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like a bit of a gear acquisition syndrome. And have you found that there's certain bits and pieces of gear that have made your life easier, or are there other things that you think are a little bit more important in creating a creative business?
Here comes the hard sell on the puns. I mean, I've made no secret about the fact that Sony has changed my life as a photographer, as a creative. For those who don't know, Sony Alpha actually make the best and best-selling, not just the best, but also the best-selling mirrorless cameras in the world. And I think they've just surpassed Nikon in sales in the whole photography industry, camera industry. And I went from Nikon to Canon, from Canon to Sony, and Sony has really just boosted my life so much, and it's made that efficiency so much better. Other gear, I would definitely say just off-camera lighting was something that really made me afraid for a long time. And when I finally started investing in off-camera lighting, I suddenly realized how much versatility and creative freedom I had with making my own light. And I mean, that's made it a lot easier to book stuff like weddings and shoots where you have a scenario where you have a guy in a studio, like I did with Matthew. Last year we had to go to Johannesburg to a studio, and it was quite dark, and I had to do the lighting myself. So that has helped me a lot. Yeah.
So would you say that the extra bit of technology and extra bit of gear that's made an influence in your business?
Definitely. And the first influence was to give me a little bit of a negative bank balance, but I actually made 2/3 of that back within 4 months, just because of what I was able to do with this new gear. How I was able to create images with incredible detail and capture things a lot easier and a lot quicker. And I mean, I really managed to get the best shots of my entire life with the new Sony gear, and it's really influenced my business. It's really everyone I meet who knows about my work have said, "Yo, dude, the Sony is doing so well for you." I'm always a little bit like, no, I'm doing well for the Sony, but I mean, it does come down to that. I do have the ability to use the camera, and that camera just gives me so much more. So definitely, but I actually wrote a blog about this yesterday. I'm writing a blog about 10 things that will improve your photography. And one of the things is not to focus on you need the newest and best gear all the time, especially as an aspiring photographer. I used what I had at my disposable. I never used disposable cameras, but I used what I had to my disposal. I used my phone. I used the little crop sensor Nikon back in the day, and I honed my skill and grew myself as a photographer using what I had to my disposal. And I think that's really important as well. But when you reach a pro level, gear does make a big difference if you can use it.
If you can use it.
Yeah, if you can use it.
So if you were to go back 6 years, to Louw Lemmer starting out as that Instagrammer photographer on his cell phone. Is there any bit of advice that you would give to yourself 6 years ago, looking back now?
Don't be so afraid, especially don't be so afraid of weddings. Don't be afraid of putting yourself out there, because the worst thing that can happen is no. And that's really not that bad. Someone can tell you no, that they're not interested now. But eventually someone's going to tell you yes. So keep on doing that and keep on working harder on your own social media. Don't slack down. And also just be prepared for how Instagram's going to screw up the algorithm. I would definitely tell myself that. But definitely stop being afraid. Stop being afraid of pursuing concerts and weddings, and don't be afraid of using artificial light.
You were chatting now, but about Instagram algorithms and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What do you think is the future of social media? As someone who's really involved in social media at the moment, what do you think is the next big thing? Where are we going to as an industry?
It's got to be something in a line of artificial intelligence, because it's becoming such a big thing, and I think that means a lot of openings for creatives. So you can't mimic the human mind. You can't mimic creativity. A machine can never be creative. So if I think it's 80% of all occupations that exist now will not exist in 20 years because of artificial intelligence and automation and all of that. So I think it's really, really something. If you are a creative and you have a creative brain, and I think everyone has a creative brain to some extent, use it and make the most of it, and find as many ways possible to just enhance your ability to be creative. And obviously I think video as well. Video is going to be quite big. I definitely think there will be a place for stills. I just don't think video will completely rule out stills as a platform. So and also think, just how gear will advance will make it more difficult, because suddenly a lot more people will have gear that's more accessible at a really good price for them. So focus a lot on honing your creativity and being unique. But I definitely think the future holds a lot of work for creatives.
Because there's a lot of people who would argue with you that with the advent of cell phones and cell phone photography, and how good the technology is becoming, that our jobs as photographers, and maybe even all other creatives, as someone who plays the guitar, you can now just go play guitar on your computer, that a lot of these jobs are falling away. You're arguing that if you've got enough creativity, you can still make it work. Yeah,
because I think it comes down to, if I can relate it to sport, we're always going to be into sport where a bunch of people play it. We don't want to watch robots, because it's not perfect. It's not relatable. And that's why artists will always have work, because you humans out there who can't do what you can do, who don't have the creativity that you do, will want to be able to do that. And that's why I also think educational creativity has a big future, because everyone's going to want to learn from you. Everyone's will want to watch your podcast or listen to your podcast because of that, because that human element will be one of the strongest things going forward. And I think as technology advances, as a society, we will want to retain sort of that human element as well, not to make things too plastic in terms of just tech, if that makes sense.
For the people watching the video, you guys would have seen me smiling and Louw having a reaction to that. It's more because I know your girlfriend's in the education field, which is why I was thinking that you were trying to combine the two there. So is education like a big thing? Do you think that's going to become more of a thing in the future as well in terms of creativity?
Yeah, I think so too, because you can't coach someone how to be creative, but you can sort of lead their mind to figuring out how to be creative. And I think with all of the advancement of life, education will become more important than ever. And yes, I think education has a future because of my girlfriend, but I'm not completely biased towards her. I also genuinely have a passion myself for education. That's why I am keen to do this podcast. This is why I do workshops and why I always share how I do things, because people latch onto that, because it just gives that human element, which I think it's really rewarding. People are not as impressed with tech doing automated things, because I mean, it's just tech, it's just being programmed. People want to see you doing something you do out of your own ability.
If you look back at the last 6 years of your career in terms of photography and building a business, what's been your favorite failure? What's been a failure that's actually proven to be something that was a blessing in disguise?
That's a big one. I feel like I've answered everything so quickly, and now I'm just gonna sit here. Wow.
We can come back to it if you need a little time.
I definitely think a quick one is my failure to just get myself to photograph weddings, and I'm sort of stuck on this weddings thing now, where I'm so disappointed in myself that I never did that. But now I realize, even though I didn't do that and I was afraid of doing that, I found a way in order to start doing that, and I've learned from that failure of not doing it, which I think has really influenced me, and especially going forward.
Why are weddings so important? Because you've referenced it a few times. Why have weddings been so critical in your development as a photographer?
It's a couple of reasons. My parents have always supported me with this career, and they've always been really eager for me to do more, and they've always told me, listen, you need to do weddings, man. There's money in weddings. You got to shoot that. And I always said, no, I'm too afraid of. I didn't say I'm too afraid. I just made stupid excuses, but it was actually because I was too afraid. And it doesn't make sense for someone who loves photographing people. I mean, photographing a wedding, as you will know, it's a lot of hard work, but it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding to go into an industry where there are so many people, to actually go into a saturated industry where you have guys photographing weddings like incredible pros like you, and I have to try and compete with that. And I have to try and compete with other people shooting a wedding for 5,000 Rand or 10,000 Rand, and it's just such a low price. I have to go into that and try and make a success. And I've sort of slowly started doing that thing where I just decided to go into weddings, decided to start saying yes for weddings, and it's really, really bolstered my passion for this, where I work really hard, but it gets such a big reward, and it gets such a big reward in social media. And so many people come to me and they say, listen, that's really beautiful, and you did such a good job. And I think for me, that's as a creative, the most rewarding thing is when people appreciate your work. And for some reason, people really just appreciate weddings. And coming back to my parents, I'm really proud of the fact that they are now proud of me overcoming my fears. Because as a teenager, I was really a bad introvert, which was not my personality at all. I was afraid of doing things like this, and I was afraid of change. And I turned into this person who says yes to going on a trip for a client he doesn't know to Tanzania. 48 hours later, I'm in a different country, halfway up the continent. Went into this person, more of a yes man person, and that's what weddings also represent to me. A bit more of a yes man, taking a different challenge and trying to make a difference within an industry that is so saturated.
So do you find yourself saying yes to a lot more opportunities now because you're doing weddings, or now because you're doing photography? Do you just say yes to a lot of things because you're interested? Or is it saying yes because you're willing to take the risk?
I'm saying yes because I'm willing to take the risk, willing to put myself in a situation that I'm not necessarily confident with. And I think doing this really comes down to confidence. And I've realized I'm actually so confident, and I need to boost myself more. I am a good photographer. I am creative. I am better than a lot of other people. And I need to remember that, not out of arrogance, but to boost myself as a creative, because this business and the survival of this business and my future survival comes down to my ability to find more work, my ability to be more unique. And all of that requires confidence. So saying yes, and weddings, saying yes to them has helped me not just be more confident in photographing weddings, but me be more confident in photographing a lot of different things. And I mean, I'll not always say yes. You have to say yes when the price is right. But I try and make compromises more and just push myself to the limits. because I think that's really going to be the determining factor for my career going forward.
You've mentioned price now again, and you've mentioned price earlier when we started chatting. Is there something to be said about still doing work for free? Do you still do shoots for free? You've just said that you'll do the work if the price is right, but do you still do things for free if you need to?
I don't think that there is anything that I need to do for free now, because I've built up a really comprehensive portfolio now, but I will still do things for free, and it's going to come down to, I think, my heart. I will always do free test shoots, because if I invite someone to come over, I'm not going to charge them, because I think it's also still important for me to grow as a creative and keep on growing as a creative. I need to do a lot of test shoots.
For people who don't know, what is a test shoot?
A test shoot is just you meeting up with, or to me anyway, but it's me meeting up with someone and doing testing new techniques, testing new lighting situations, and really having time to test various techniques and lighting setups and whatever you can come up with. And it really helps me to stay passionate about photography, because sometimes you can get a little bit overwhelmed with all of the work, and it can become a little bit tedious if you have to do tedious work, and you might fall into a space where you lose passion for what you do. And in order to counter that, you have to go back to your roots, go back to why you are doing this, go back to creating unique content for social media. And those test shoots are also really important to keep my social media going, because I mean it's something you have to keep on going constantly. If you slack down, you're going to lose clients. And
So starting to wind down, if you had a big billboard, say on the N1, or if you could put a message out to the entire world, everyone was linked into like little earphones and you had the microphone, what's a message that you would like to get out to the whole wide world?
Be confident, be loving and caring, make friends, and also to fellow creatives, stop keeping all of your secrets to yourself. Don't die with your secrets. Share what you have. And just give your heart, because it's so rewarding.
Awesome, dude. Louw Lemmer, thank you very much. For the people out there who are busy listening and watching, where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
On the interwebs, this is a funny thing. My Facebook page is called Louw Lemmer Creative. I need to change that sometime to Louw Lemmer Photography. But you can find me at, hopefully by the time this podcast goes out, you can find me on louwlemmer.com. My website will be up and running then, and you can find me on Instagram at Louw Lemmer, LOUWLEMMER, and also on Instagram, Louw Lemmer Photography.
Awesome, dude. And if there's, is there anything I haven't asked you yet? Is there anything else you still want to put out in the world that everybody just needs to know right now?
I'd like to ask you a question. When are we going to work out again? Been ditching me lately.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. The CrossFit bod is coming, bro.
Yeah, CrossFit bod is coming. Yeah, man. I like that hashtag CrossFit bod.
Dude, Louw Lemmer, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and your efforts in being here.
Of course, man.
To everybody listening and watching, thank you very much for joining us with another episode of Creatives on Business. We'll catch you guys next time. Cheers.
Lekker.